in every journey there is a challenge, right? In every challenge, if you are able to find the solution and the perseverance, and you support yourself with the people that can go the distance, you will be successful.
So, our featured speaker today is the founder and CEO of Helicis. An experienced CEO, Andrew combines his skills in business planning and development with his international sales experience to deliver experience, virtual assistant, and automation solutions that empower SMEs. Andrew, it's a great pleasure to have you as our featured guest today, and thank you so much for being willing to share your journey with us today.
You're welcome, Nancy and Spencer. Pleasure to be here.
So I was actually wondering if you might be willing to kick us off, just telling us a little bit about some of your experiences growing up and maybe a couple of the early life events or people that came into your life that you feel like really were key influencers of who you became personally and professionally.
Sure. I guess I will start. I was born in Indonesia, Jakarta, and Indonesia is actually a third world country. So I was quite blessed coming from a background of parents. They were able to afford to send me to school abroad, which was in United States. So I left Indonesia and I went abroad and went to a boarding school in Massachusetts. Uh, it's 3 hours away from Boston, so it's basically in a small village. And I spent about 17 years in the States. And so I went to high school in Massachusetts, and then I went to university in St. Louis, Missouri, and then I went to California, and then I went back to Indonesia in 2010. You asked about the key influencers of who I became right now. Definitely, the most influential people will be my parents. Um, Whenever I spend time working on houses, I always think whatever they told me or the key lessons I learned throughout my life um, regarding helping people that needs help and also to be balanced in business, making sure it's important to keep the good name, for instance. That comes from the teaching of my parents also. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I always find it so useful to have an idea of the experiences that have led someone to where they are, and it's great to hear about the mentors, in someone's life that got them there. I was hoping we could also talk a bit about your time at SMI as CEO. Did you take any particular lessons from that experience that you brought with you as you started Helicis?
Sure, sure. So when I moved back to Indonesia in 2010, actually, it was kind of a sudden move. I moved back from the States, and in 2010, I did not immediately started houses, right? I wanted to find out the market in Indonesia, how people do business in Indonesia, what kind of problems each business have. So I started SME, which is a consulting, business consulting firm, and I help my friends, which needs help in solving their business related in strategy or in technology. With time, they actually trusted me with more than just being a consultant. They trusted me with providing their electronic equipments and computer equipments, such as desktop, laptop, also printer, and including networking equipments, software. Definitely, if at the end they ask me whether I can build the software or recommend appointing let's say for what type of software to be used in their companies. So throughout time, they trusted me with more and more with their business related to technology.
Thanks for, kind of explaining the backstory too, to, how you found Halosys. So I have to go back to one thing you said. You said you went to like grammar school in Massachusetts. Whereabouts? Because I'm from that state. I was really curious.
It was Northfield, Mount Herman.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure if you know where it is.
I mean, I know like I was gonna say I know the area, but like I wouldn't know the specific school.
Sure.
But that's like a very specific experience in the US. So I'm sure that it was really different when you moved to, you said Missouri and then California.
Well, moving from the biggest change definitely came when I was moving from Indonesia to United States, because at that time there was no YouTube, there was no Netflix, there's no nothing that prepares us to see what's United States is all about.
Yeah.
I can only hear from my parents to be and or my friends. They already study there, but nothing can ever prepares me.
Yep.
So when I first moved to United States, that's the whole world is totally different from where I was, I guess.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Wow. As a kid too.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty commendable, like, what you've made of all of those experiences. So, kind of adding on a little bit to what you started to tell us about your market research, finding Helicis, I was wondering, by the time you started it, do you feel like you had a solid business model, or did you kind of do the startup thing of kind of pivoting and trying to figure some of that out as you went?
Okay, so I'll tell you how I started Halosis. So at that time, I was in 2018. I was helping a nonprofit organization, NGO, which is part of the Catholic organization that was giving scholarships to family that needs help. So I was mentoring the IT team that was supported by the leading university in Indonesia. But one day, of course, part of me and my wife, we want to know who's the user, right? And we want to know who we are creating this software for, which are the people that it's the help for the children education, for the scholarships. So we went from one house to another house. It was in a rural area nearby our where we live in West Jakarta, and that's when I couldn't forget the experience that I had. It was a rainy day. Well, it just stopped raining, and I keep on coming in from one house to another house. And whenever I went into each house, I keep on meeting the female figure in the house, and they were trying to be the breadwinner for the family. They were being left behind by their husband, or their husband are working, but it wasn't enough to support their family, nor it's enough for the children education, and that's why they need help. And when I asked what do they do for living, to for their day to day, most of them they're trying to generate income by selling on social media, and that's how I couldn't sleep afterwards, because I was serving the enterprise clients, right? I was making a good income, and then there's this experience that opened my eyes and heart and say you can do better for the world. That day keep on like replaying in my eyes and my heart over and over, and I start to do my research. So I did my research on how they do the social media selling in Indonesia. Of course, there is different channels. but I realized they were so manual. There's a lot of steps they were done manually. So that's how we started Halosis in a nutshell. And the journey took us quite surprisingly to places that we never thought it will take us. So we were invited to join several programs, such as the Google Launchpad for AI, the Facebook Accelerator Asia Pacific, the Google Asia Pacific program for women empowerment for my co-founder. Also, we got an award by the President of Indonesia for our role supporting the SMEs. We got different awards also for the social impact. We did not think about this when we started. We were just trying to solve a problem. So, how I get to the product, I actually sit and spend on my handphone and pretend I was a customer for all those sellers. That's how I find out the pain, right? I imagine I was the customer, and then I interview the sellers. I went to the physical locations, interviewed as many of them, and I basically summarized their main issues that we want to solve early.
Thank you so much for taking us through that. I've often heard those stories of like where a entrepreneur goes and talks in person to all of their potential customers and has that discussion and sees really what they're experiencing and develops a company from there. And I'm so interested in, I really like to hear about those sorts of situations where you've done that very thing. Now, you also mentioned before we started recording that the Halosis means hello sister.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how, as you said, you started from just trying to solve a problem, how female empowerment has sort of become wrapped up into it and become a key part of the focus?
Sure. Well, the early story of how we were motivated to start Halosis, we realized the women in Indonesia, there's 34 million women that actually tries to become the breadwinner for their family, and that number it's humongous in terms of the significant.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt you and ask you like what portion of the population that might be, or what portion of like females that might be? Any idea?
Sure, I think it's more than half of the productive female in Indonesia. Yeah. We have about 200 million populations. But yes, it's.
Wow.
I mean, once again, like we're come from like a third world country now. It's much more developed, definitely. But a lot of the women in the past, they were not prioritized to get education, right? And the male get the priority to get education. So if something happened, then they will become a victim of you can say or once again divorce or everything left behind, but they will be struggling to earn income because they do not have the capacity and the capability compared to the male counterparts. Yeah, so that's the reality in my country.
Yeah, thank you for really making that a full picture. Um, it's an interesting thing to see, that along with development in the country, you've seen such a change in female employment. But I mean, it makes a lot of logical sense, I guess, when I think about it. But it's a really interesting element to think, because I'm sure it's changed a lot of other things in the culture too.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually wondering if you could sort of, I guess, building off of that a little bit. I saw like on LinkedIn, that it's that Halosis operates with a mission that everyone, even in the most remote areas and with the most limited means, shall have the same opportunities to become successful entrepreneurs. And I think that's really well articulated. And I like the idea that Halosys is measuring its success by the success of its customers, the womanpreneurs, if I'm saying that word right. But I'm curious if that's like a metric that you can easily quantify to be able to use in growing your reach or growing the company.
Sure. It's a lesson learned. It was an ideal world that we imagined, right? Practice-wise, it's similar to startups. When we try to help the micro or the ultra micro, we call them the entrepreneurs in terms of the size of the business. A lot of them in several months they might change their business, or in a year the business might no longer exist, right? Majority of them. So at the end we have to focus on the one that have potentials. So throughout time, after we learned that we cannot just help as many of them, we started to focus on the one that needs help, in growing their business. Moving fast forward to the present, we are not only helping the womenpreneurs or the entrepreneurs, we are already serving the larger brand and even enterprise, the biggest enterprise in Indonesia even. So that's our journey. It started from a mission. We are not forgetting our mission, but we have to be balanced, and we need to be smart in how we are able to receive revenue and income, and not depending of the business that keep on like having turnovers. Yeah, that's the lesson.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so it's a very pertinent point that, like, if you can't dedicate some level of your focus to the revenue development, then you'll stop being able to serve the mission as well, because you won't have, the money to do those sorts of things. And I think sometimes that's missed out. People don't understand that, or don't realize that you need both to succeed, right? And I think that's a very good point, and I appreciate you giving us that lesson. You're a fellow MIT Bootcamp program alumni. That's a long sequence of words. What drew you to apply and attend the Innovation and Leadership Bootcamp? And have you found any of the tools or pieces of the framework or network that have been particularly useful to you recently?
Okay, I was part of the Tokyo for the AI bootcamp, particularly, uh, and also the scaling up bootcamp for the startup for scaling up. So in my experience, definitely in Tokyo, I barely sleep for a week. I barely sleep for a week, but I was so energized. Not sure about the other members. I saw them fall asleep and everything, but for me, I had so much fun because I was able to brainstorm for what kind of solution that we should create. And I was being surrounded by amazing team members, and also other colleagues that we can talk regarding AI, or just their business that they're working on. And it was in Japan. So that was experience that also open up my network. I keep in touch not only with Erdin. He is a mentor for me up to this day. He always supports me. Um, for the tools, actually, before we joined, the funny thing is my wife and I, we already saw the online version of the lesson, right? So So we already know Erden, and then when I saw the opportunity to the offline event and it matched my schedule, at that time I already started Halosis. I joined, yeah, for the Tokyo one, yeah. And for the Massachusetts one, I guess it's helps also because I get to learn from other people that's already growing their startups, the type of problems that they have. I learn about uh, different size of companies have different problems, and I also learn about each of us have unique skills, and sometimes our skills does not fit at the stage of every single company. So, for instance, if we just started a company and we always like to start a company, and then suddenly somebody asks us to move to an enterprise, uh, we might not fit immediately our style. Yeah, so that's the thing that some of the lessons that I learned.
Oh, that's such a good takeaway too. And actually like not one that we've heard a whole lot, because it does sound like you really had a good handle on your market research and before you attended the boot camp programs, which I think is like a thing that I hear a lot that people benefited from, just to making sure that they did that early. You did that. So I hope you were able to like hear that, formal advice and be like, good job. I'm so glad that I went through the pains of doing that. So just kind of building off of that question a little bit, do you think there's anything looking at the programs you wish had gone differently just to make the experience a little bit richer for yourself, for your team? Either something the boot camp team could have done differently or something you could have done within your team.
Sure. I think we learn from the experience also from the team that we all came from different background, and we also sometimes needs to accept the difference, right? And how we can come up with the solution together and work as a team. Um, well, for me, the our team actually also was mentored by Hannah. I'm not sure if you know now. Hannah becomes the bootcamp leader lately. So the whole communication between us as a team, also my team in Tokyo, still keep in touch. We have a WhatsApp group, right? We still have a WhatsApp group. We still rely upon each other from one time to time. But what I miss is the offline because when we meet online, it's totally different. Like right now, I cannot feel your energy, right? If we meet in person, you probably can see other people's face, whether they're confused, whether they're happy, whether they're the different emotion that when we meet people. So I guess I wish that we can meet more often, like wherever we are. Maybe the gatherings can be coordinated in different part of the world in different, let's say, different years, but give us a chance at least to reorganize and meet everyone again. Yeah, that will be really nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's something that we also would really like to set up. We actually, the Founders Voyage was started because Nancy had gone through the effort of organizing one session at the location, and we discussed whilst we were there. And it's so true that in-person experience is um, it's not properly replicated online just yet, if it ever will be. So we're definitely in support of having more meetups for the community for sure.
Sure.
With Halicis, you've had You've been running it for a few years now. How has your experience, like your leadership style and experience, changed when it was first started and as it's developed across the time?
Okay. I guess the first important things is when you have founders, the team that you want to start, you know them well, right? So my founders, actually, I have a younger classmate of mine. Also, I have, fortunately, my wife, which I know very well. So that's the team that we started with, and then we grow the team. And throughout time, of course, there's struggle, there's uphill battle, there's challenges, and we grow our team, and we recruited more professionals to join our team, and some fits, some don't, right? So in building the current team, the culture that we want to keep is to let everyone know that we are small, we are lean, but we are agile and fast. I do not need as many people compared to, let's say, the bigger companies, but I just need people that are motivated and they're excited for the opportunity to learn and grow together with us. Yeah, so that's the type of people that we're looking for. Um, the smartest people in the world might not be, let's say, the best fit, right? So each of you guys might encounter uh, when you build a team. Um, we also have that kind of experience in our team where people butt heads all the time, right? But that doesn't always means it's productive. So at the end of the day, we just need to make sure the teamwork and the execution matters. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you. I mean, that doesn't surprise me that that's how you would approach that, but I also appreciate you kind of saying it that way. I actually wanted to just comment on one thing you said about the virtual connection not being the same as the in-person meetups. As like someone from a big family who hugged a lot, I completely agree with you. But uh, but I have to say that I think it has changed. Well, it has changed. Now I do, my job completely virtually. Um, I do personal training and fitness and motivation coaching, and I was really like, how could I possibly like make people feel the same? It wasn't like, how can I spot them? How can I set up the cameras? We could figure that out, but how can I make them feel that energy? And I think I've just realized that like I just had to get more creative about it, just like when we're confined in any other realm. So, and it's also shown me like who else is interested in being creative about that. Like I started following companies that were really like making you feel their product, even though maybe you weren't going to be shopping in their stores for a prolonged period of time, like now, like just even ordering from a restaurant, like it became so much more important that they like made you feel like you were going to have this amazing experience, even if you're getting it through DoorDash. So anyway, I just want to say, even though I totally agree with you and I do want more in-person meetups, I appreciate like how much creativity came out of, being on lockdown. So, all right, that's enough of retort for me. I'm gonna actually pass to Catherine so she can ask you a question.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for sharing your amazing story. My question was, how do you think your experience living abroad impacted your entrepreneurial journey? Was it difficult to adapt coming back home and start your company at the same time? Thank you.
So definitely going from one world to another world, right? It was life-changing moment for me when I spent time in the States after my teenage years. And then moving back when I was an adult and spending most of my time career-wise, try to start entrepreneurship in Indonesia. Definitely, also I have to adjust. So I guess as an entrepreneurs, wherever we are, we have to be able to adjust, right? So one of the main difference in the States and in where I live right now, um, the people here are more passive, right? So if they don't know something, most of the time they will not ask. So they will just they're more submissive and say or like a good subordinate. They will just say yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. That's the first learning that I had. Like wow, everybody understands what I'm talking about. It's not too bad. But then when the results, they submitted their results, for instance, it's totally different from what I'm expected. So that's one of the early learnings from me. I have to be patient. I have to spend time with them, of course, to educate them. The level of education for us is totally different. Also, where we had meet um, different companies. For them, they mostly work with the local companies that have different culture. Once again, they uh, follow a certain type of procedures, not to be creative, not to be problem solvers, but just do the steps that you are told to do. Yeah, that's the main difference, that we try to find people that are different from the most are being taught in the work. But once there are technology startups boom, more and more people adapt to different style of working, right? So it's the younger generation are more adaptive. They know already, once again, from learning online or even from the university, already teach them to be more active, to be asking questions, and try to keep on solve a problem, attack the problem and find different solutions, and that helps a lot in finding the right team members.
No, this is great. Thank you so much for sharing. This is very very insightful. As an immigrant myself, I've noticed like I'm dealing with like cultural difference and stuff like that. So it's interesting to feel validated by your experience as well.
Sure, Catherine.
Thank you so much for the question. Now, Andrew, it seems like with Halysis, you had a clear idea from the beginning, after discussing with potential customers what you're after, and you've gone quite directly along that path. Did you ever have any major pivots or big changes you had to make along the way when you realized things were a bit different or you required some deviations? How did you go about dealing with that sort of situation?
Yeah, what we try to build is an affordable solution, right? So, for instance, when we were invited by the Google for AI, um, we kind of created the solution that the you guys already know what the chat GPT looks like right now, but it's more like the simpler way for the sellers. But that solution is not cheap. So it's not affordable. So we realized, okay, this is we're building something that's too expensive for everybody. So that's an example of what's out there doesn't mean people will purchase it, right? When you offer something for free, a lot of them will say, "Okay, I'll use it. I'll use it for free." But once you put a price on it, then that's when you realize how much pain are you solving for them. So now our focus is more on the type of clients. There are basically their business have too many chats to handle, right? So they already have a major issue to deal with, and they're willing to basically pay for us to solve their problems and to organize their data and everything else also. So yeah, that's our product doesn't come instantly from the first product that we designed. Is totally different from where we are right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about that because that was actually something I was really curious about. That you definitely see that growth in companies over time, but sometimes it feels more organic, and sometimes it's like a complete switch out too. So I'm sure it didn't feel smooth either way as you went through some of those iterations. And actually, one of the other things I was thinking that as time goes on and it feels like some of the pains of the pandemic might be behind some of us. You were talking about being in the United States during that time. How difficult was that to run Halosys from the US?
Actually, I like it better. At that time, nobody questions me where I was.
Okay.
They immediately request for a meeting online, right? Meaning like, okay, what time are you available online? Okay, I say, okay, this particular time. And they didn't know I was abroad, and even in the States, there was totally different time zone. Now everyone are requesting for offline meetings. If there is no offline meetings, that means there's no real business. So, I mean, so of course I can serve more, I guess, productive meetings during the pandemic. I have deals with once again the big clients. Then they did not even know I was in the States. I don't know if they will defer their decision if they know I was in the States throughout that time, but they never asked. And whenever time that they requested for the meeting, I will just um, confirm whether I was available or not. So during, let's say, Asia morning until nighttime, I will just adjust to the United States time. Yeah.
Like I'm on the other side of the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. I like that, being adaptable and not needing to give unnecessary information. Being like, I can work with whatever you need. That's brilliant. That's actually really,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Um, Now, taking a little bit of a different tact to our other questions, one thing I wanted to ask about is about work-life balance. How do you, do all the incredibly cool things you're doing, but also take the time to care for yourself and your family and things like that? How do you balance that?
This is a difficult question, but I'll answer in two parts. So throughout the pandemic, so I was working a totally different shift, right? So I started work, let's say 6 o'clock in the afternoon or evening until early in the morning. In United States, at that time I was in the Pacific time, which is where Nancy currently resides, right? And then by the time I finished work, quote unquote work, my children are awake or uh, soon they will be awake. So I was able to spend quality time with them. Meanings I was able to take them to the park. I was able to take them to bookstores. I was able to take them to taekwondo classes. So there was the way I realized, oh my God, this is a balance. life when I was working totally different time zone. But when I moved back to Indonesia, of course, I didn't mention sleep yet. Everyone was asking when do I sleep. So I sleep in the afternoon, or when I mentioned that I have time before my children wake up, then I'll sleep. I wake up a little bit late. So let's say 10, 11, or yeah, close to lunchtime sometimes. So yeah, just to make sure that I'm still healthy. Um, and then when I moved back to Indonesia, so when I work, they have to go to school or go to, let's say, kindergarten or preschool, right? So I realize when I wake up, sometimes I left for my meetings throughout the day. I came back very late, and they're ready to go to bed, right? So when I talked to my wife, she was trying to find also a solution with me, and she actually also worked as a co-founder in our company. She's also our CTO. So we decide that we should take our children to work. So after school, let's say after the kindergarten, so we just take them to our office. So that's how we find our work-life balance. Of course, in the weekend, they will still spend time with them and play. But we try our best to spend time with the family. Um, I guess that's that's not for everybody. We are trying our best to make sure that children see the type of work that we do. My oldest daughter, which was 5 years old, the funny thing, she was listening to our meeting in the meeting room, and suddenly she drew diagrams of what we were talking about. So she learns quickly on what the parents are doing, I guess. Yeah.
All right, very good. I mean, I really appreciate you articulating like the different ways that you found work-life balance. Yeah, I was like, you have to sleep sometime. Like that sounds great to work all night and wake up and like if I had endless energy, that's how I would like to operate. But the it's really interesting that you're able to adapt that too, so that you're able to have quality time with your family. I'm so glad to hear that. I actually want to pass to Giovanni, who has a question for you, going back to something that we were talking about earlier. So, Giovanni, do you have audio?
Well, I was wondering what about the education that you had in US comparing to the one of Indonesia. If you can give a hint or an example, just to have an idea about both of them. Thank you.
Mm. Well, in Indonesia, I went to the best private school before I left for United States. So the standard of education that I had is probably already the higher standards for Indonesia. But when I went to United States the first time, I was the passive one. I was afraid to talk. I was afraid. Well, even in the MIT boot camps, when Erdin remembers me that I only listen. I barely ask questions or stand up to give the opinion. But I like to hear what other people um, says and to understand where everyone's opinion is. But in Indonesia, as a leader, definitely, I need to teach them to once again to share the opinions, and it's okay to give ideas. It's okay to get it wrong. I will not fire you to for you to give ideas and to try new ideas. So that's the kind of education. It's not more about learning, let's say, mathematics, English, physics, Giovanni. It's more about the type of skills they are important in growing my company, that I try to educate them that's different from what they have before.
And thank you very much for the question, Giovanni.
Thanks, Giovanni.
I want to take a moment to look a little bit forward as well. What do you see as sort of your vision of the future? Are there particular other problems or missions that you want to focus on? Are you sticking long term? You want to stay with Halosis, or is there even other totally different paths that you're looking to take?
Sure, that's a very good question. Um, well, I'll start with Halosis first. So Halosis, we're currently finalizing with several strategic partners, um, and that should help us to grow bigger, faster, right? But we want to carefully select our strategic partners, so they're well-established enterprise, but we want to make sure that they're aligned with our goal. We want to make sure that we will not just be a division or a unit, business unit, that they will ask them to create a solution for that particular company. So that's where we are at right now for Halosis. Down the road, in the next 5 years, hopefully we are already, I believe, either listed or already being fully acquired. Besides Halosis, actually, during the MIT bootcamp in Tokyo, my team actually won the consolidation prize, I should say, the second place winner. And that particular product, it's to support the NGO. So I also created a discussion with my team at that time, whether we can launch the solution. But unfortunately, due to where we are and different parts of the world in terms of time, everybody realized that we cannot work as a team to create that dreams come true. But somehow in Indonesia, I was able to support a similar goal. So yeah, so in the next several years, I think I'm already a part of advising team for that particular, you can say, startup also. But yeah, those are the two things that I will be focusing on. Yeah.
That's really exciting. Thanks for sharing that with us. And as you're, getting more into it, if you do find that, you're looking for, other people not necessarily even to hire, but just to talk with about their experiences, I think the awesome thing about this interesting web global community is that we really do have, as you found, all kinds of different people doing all kinds of different things. So that's really cool. So I just wanted to ask you, based on like everything you've shared with us, and there's no right or wrong answer here, what words of wisdom do you want to leave us with today? It could be, some quote or something that someone else gave you that you really hold on to, or just something from your own experience.
I really like to emphasize to everyone here the word grit, right? The persistence. When we build a business, it's not an instant success. Sometimes we read the news of how a company ends up to be currently, but in every journey there is a challenge, right? In every challenge, if you are able to find the solution and the perseverance, and you support yourself with the people that can go the distance, you will be successful. So this is a wonderful communities. Um, Please learn as much from each other, and definitely we'll be hearing from you next time from all of you, I also want to hear how you build your business and how you become successful in running it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. I definitely understand in regards to grit the importance of just being willing to put in the time and effort and get to where you want to go. It's such a good point. Thank you very much, Andrew, for all of your time and energy and the lessons that you've taught us today. And also to everyone else who joined, who asked questions, thank you very much for coming in and giving your perspective and your energy for the discussion. Nancy and I and the team behind Founders Voyage feel fortunate to be part of this community with everyone and for the opportunity to bring this cooperative learning experience to you each week. Thank you again, everyone, for joining, and have an amazing, depending on where you are, day, evening, afternoon, or night ahead of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, everyone.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.